Welcome back. We have Jibrin Sabo-Keana back from our Abuja studios. The signals is back, I meant to say. Well, you were talking about those who occupy the office these days compared to what was before now. So take it again from there. What is the significance? What's the difference? Is it that those who occupy the office cannot live up to the expectations expected of them by the public, or what?
Well, it stems from the lost opportunity that the local government system has been subjected to by the state government or state governors. If you allow a system to evolve and to develop, you increasingly improve on the nature and the caliber and the capacity of the people who will occupy such offices. I believe that since the 1999 local government elections that were held even before the parties were formed, which you had people of responsibilities and capacity and maybe independence, sufficient independence, occupying the offices, all subsequent elections into local government systems in this country had been at the whim and caprices of the governors. And so it was like an appointment for people who were loyal to governors at the state levels that were now being appointed into the government system. Whether the person was qualified to carry out the responsibilities or not, it didn't matter to the governor as long as the persons going to occupy the office were they are loyalists. And so it has affected the development of the local government system even for the last 14 years. And it has been the characteristics of the Nigerian system since the 1976 reform. The local government system has not been allowed to mature, like the states have been having the opportunity to mature. And therefore, it is affecting the status and the relevance of the local government system in governance. And it is one of the reasons why the generality of people think that the local government should be left to the management, entire management within the state. And we keep forgetting where we're coming from. We're always in self-denial as to where we're coming from. The local government in its current status is not reflective of what 1976 reflections were. The 1976 reforms took into cognizance that all these communities had functional government, native or traditional government systems all across the country. And therefore, it encouraged sufficient independence so that the community can continue to grow in their natural form with the balance now that democracy was introducing. And so because it has continued to be interrupted since about 1980, then 1999 now, and through to the military era, the system has lost its bearing, and it is now taking the beating for the generality of the crimes that were committed by superior structures in the hierarchy. And so that is why the local government is not. But all over the country, all over the world, the Center for Development rests squarely on the counties in some countries, rests in cretons in some countries, rests in counties like in England. It is the local government, that's the local government. If you go to South Africa, it has even been perfected where the local government system is a sphere of government, is sufficiently independent just like the state, and is distinct from the state, is distinct from the provisional levels, but they all interrelate. And they relate with negotiations because the communities, the councils are left to look at their variables in their locality, as it were, into time immemorial. If you take the Nigerian scenario, the irrespective communities have had relationships, had their nature of picking information, had relation with their agricultural programs, their health programs, their educational programs, their community programs, and with the benefits of the modern time, you just came and interrupted this without taking into account that people will not have what to hang on to. And so the system has not developed. And I think the only way now for Nigeria is to give the local government system sufficient independence and autonomy to function with little interference from the state government by whatever means. Because the relationship between the state governor and the local government system is supposed to be that of a relationship between an establishment that is providing the laws and regulations to govern the activities at the counties or at the local government levels. If we don't allow that, then the local government system will disappear into time. That's also how we have destroyed the traditional institutions in the country. Before the advent of the colonial era, the traditional institutions were responsible for carrying out the activities of their respective communities in perfect form, because there was no problems of security that they could not handle. There was no problem. There was no famine that could not handle. There were no water problems they could not handle. But today, the traditional institution is there, and we're only in self-denial, because everybody, after finishing being president of the country, goes back to take a traditional title. So why don't we now find a way to marry the institution because of the value that we have for it and the respect we have for it? If you have a functional local government system and a functional role for the traditional institutions that you have today, you will see that where a local government chairman, for instance, has security problem and is supposed to set up a vigilante group, and he comes from a party A, and he's supposed to bring out youth from the community, he will have problem in bringing united front for such kind of adventure. But if you have a role that the traditional ruler has to do as a constitutional role, they sit down together. Even if he wants to be biased about the people who are his followers to be introduced into the vigilante group, his attention will be drawn by the traditional ruler. If you have community activities that, like what is causing most of the problems at the local government and disharmony among the system today is that once the local government chairman is elected, he only remembers his supporters. And so when you introduce a Shopee program, maybe where it is APC state, it's only APC followers that get the appointment. And then the remaining youths are left to wonder about, and therefore you are not arrested the problem that you wanted to solve in the first place. So it is, all these things are happening because the local government system is being bastardized and is being used as the whip boy. And therefore it will not, for as long as Nigeria does not recognize that the nationhood will evolve only if we have a stable local government system. For that long too, the country will continue to have guesswork at how to go about its developmental programs. So this is where it rests, and I'm very glad I heard the CONFAB member saying that if this CONFAB finishes and it doesn't recommend strongly that there should be an autonomous local government system in the country, then they have not had a CONFAB. It's the most apt statement to have been made, and therefore we have to take this into serious cognizance as we're running of this. And I hope that the National Assembly, both the House of Rep and Senate, will take these recommendations seriously and find a way to give the local government system the autonomy it deserves. And at the same time, looking back at the other institutions or instruments that are within the locality and introduce check and balances for the local government system that is being introduced to the traditional setting.
Well, Mr. Keana, as it were. Come in here just for a minute. The issue of autonomy for local government is quite an important one. The way you raised it is also from the discourse even at the national conference. But the thing is, how can we, well, constitutionally speaking now, have used that same organ of government help in the fight against insurgency, especially in the Northeast? You can attest to the fact that some couple of places where we have seen some skirmishes, like even within Nasarawa state, that's your own state. We had what happened within that area, the Ombase Court group, as well as what is happening in Borno and some other places. How do you think we would have been able to manage this if we had an autonomous local government administration in the country?
Thank you very much, because that is where it even finds greater relevance. When you have an autonomous, stable local government system, just as it is a modern version of the kingdoms or the chiefdoms that existed, every community has a relationship with the next community next to neighbor. Because of this, if a community A, called Keana local government, has had a traditional relationship, or now there is a stable relationship with away local government, there is always an interface of activities between the local government systems, and they pass information among themselves. That will be a relationship that would have been established from the value that used to be between them, and they share information. There is dependence on one another for information. There is dependence for protection of whatever it is theirs. And into time, you will discover that the nature of the local government operation is such that every information that comes to it it assembles it and relates with the DPO. The DPO and himself transfer such information to the state government, and the state government calls in the security people in a systematic manner. But if you notice, since the insurgency problem has come in, you've not heard the voice of any local government chairman giving the status of events as it were, because maybe he had just resumed duty after the other one had been sacked, so he doesn't even know the terrain. And because of also the way the local government systems are managed, in some states, they bring in directors from the state government and post them to administer local government administration. When you resume as a civil servant and you are battling with paying salaries and following the instructions of the governor that brought you there, you will not have studied the environment enough. You don't have known the environment enough. Because if the local government system is autonomous and elections are conducted properly, it is very likely that indigenes of those communities were the ones who will be elected into such posts. And if an indigene is elected, there are certain rudimentary knowledge that he would have had of his community. So if things begin to happen, they would have also had a knowledge about how such kind of things were tackled before. So if there's like as I'm talking to you, the insurgency problems in certain scale are still going on in certain communities, but the traditional rulers are handling them. And I'm aware that the traditional rulers are handling such cases, and it has not come to the air because the local government system there are a little bit stable. So it is because the local government system has been bastardized and every instruction comes to the government, from the government house, that activities sometimes fell off our hands. And before we start shifting blame to the local government chairman who has not been there. So it is an instrument that would have taken significant responsibility in coping insurgency from the point of view of having local way of interfacing with the Fulani or intervening with the neighboring tribes or anybody that would have been in their domain. But as it is, every instruction as to how to even relate to these people comes from the state government. And so it has affected on how people will have confidence and how to even react to scenarios of insecurity in their community. The traditional ruler, if he intervenes in certain cases and he relates the matter to the governor and doesn't get a reply, how does he move forward? But if he has a local government system that interfaces with him, they would have taken several measures before it spills over to other neighbors, or even becomes an issue that the nation will be crying on today. And even if it spills over, you would have had information as to what had happened over time before it gets out of control in the local government system. And that's how these things would have played out properly, because we are not coming out from the sky. A system had existed which was able to control and manage crises in their domains properly. And people had respect for such institutions. So if you give them opportunity, because that's the essence of local, is capacity building, whether it's traditional or developmental, at the pace of the community. And unless you don't give them the room to be able to dictate and and appoint whom they want to rule them, you are continuously going to cause this, cause a rupture in the system, and it will not help the growth of the country in any form. There will be no development if the local government system is not stable, because every development is local. If you are building a road, you are taking to the local government. If you are providing water, you are taking to the local government. And all over the world, every of such developments are carried out at the local government level, where in some developed societies, even the airports are under the control of the local government system. So it is only through having a structure that is respected that we can have these developmental areas, aspects of our life.
Okay, Sabo-Keana is the former chairman of Keana local government area. Thank you for those insights you've given us to us. But who knows if they will eventually stick to that one, because the argument is going back and forth about what he has said.